Howdy comic book fans, Patrick Hickey Jr. here, editor-in-chief, ReviewFix.com, joined by Robin Buckwalter, co-owner of Galaxy Comics and Collectibles 3 in Park Slope. And this is not an episode of This Week in Comics, even though the setting is there. Today we're going to discuss Chinatown.
Patrick has been reviewing the Goon pretty extensively on the site, and he finally got up to Chinatown, which is sort of technically the 6th book in the series. Mm-hmm. But really, it takes place before all the other books.
Yes.
But we feel it deserves its own sort of mini review.
Yeah, Robin was telling me, I remember the first time I read the first Goon comic, and I was swept off my feet. Eric Powell is a god. I love his style of storytelling. I love the art. I think the Goon is an amazingly deep character. Mm-hmm. I love the crime noir / zombie kind of things that are going on there. If you don't love Frankie...
Crime noir and zombies, yeah. I wasn't sure that would work first off.
But it did. It works beautifully. And I love Frank just stabbing people in the eye.
Stabbing.
Yeah, knife to the eye. I love it. Great. But then the series is very funny, off-color, dick and fart jokes kind of stuff.
Well, it starts off that way.
Yeah. It gets much more serious.
Yeah. If any of you ever want to give it a shot, if you're sort of thrown off by maybe the humor is a little too out there for me, Chinatown, since it does take place before a lot of the other stuff in the series, you don't really have to pay attention to all the history that's being built up so far. It's a great way to get into the series just to sort of build a foundation of what's going to come later, because this definitely changes. After Chinatown, the whole tone of the series changes.
And that's the thing that's great, because there's not a lot of mention of I don't think there's any mention of the things that have gone on in the Goon timeline before that. So there's no mention of the nameless priest, of any of the other characters.
Well, from what I've read of the series and what Eric Powell was talking about when he was creating the Goon, Chinatown, was that he always wanted this story, but he didn't really have a base to set it up. He had this whole idea plot out, but he didn't really know how to get to that point. So he's just, the first few books for his issues of the Goons, I'm sure, is him trying to get to know the characters and trying to just have fun with them. Yeah. Which is awesome.
Absolutely.
On so many levels. But once he gets to Chinatown...
It's so different. It's great different, though. I mean, there are certain moments throughout the series where you kind of see that Powell has an ability to write extremely emotionally and make Goon a sympathetic character, one that is not good with the women, that is kind of self-deprecating in a way. He tries to stay away from love, and he just tries to stay as hard and as brazen as possible. And in Chinatown, you see the softer side.
Well, you see exactly why he turns into this kind of guy.
Yeah, and it's pretty rough. So it's gritty. It's real. It's extremely emotional. Yeah. You don't expect to see the Goon cry or the Goon to love.
Especially what you've seen of the character before.
Yeah, I mean the involvement of Mr. Wicker and stuff.
He comes back into a little bit later in the storyline. So this is not. He was more of an introductory character there too.
Kind of corny, but nothing. It fits. It fits with the overall scheme of the Goon and the type of villains and things like that. But just seeing why he is the way that he is, I think, makes Chinatown such an amazing read. So what sticks out with you with the story?
With the story itself?
Yeah.
The mirror sequence. The sequence where sort of I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a turning point in the story with sort of brings about him just going sort of in this deep pit of despair. Yeah. And he looks at himself, he goes to the bathroom, he looks at himself in the mirror, and each page is a splash page of just his reactions as he's looking at himself and him sort of going through those emotions. It's like 6 pages long. It's some of the sort of most painful things.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the deepest portrayals of a character's emotions I've ever seen in a comic book. It's any guy that's ever been screwed over by a woman will totally understand. And you just see him looking in the mirror and he's upset. And he's a little bit more upset. And he's angry. Then he's a wreck. Then he's a disaster.
A big disaster.
Then he's a mess. And again, it just shows how the Goon was a rounded character before this, but this just adds so much more to the character, and you see exactly why he became what he became, and you see the bond. That's my favorite part of it. You see the bond between him and Frankie, and you always know that Frankie has his back. But if you ever had a doubt about Frankie before this run, you will not have a doubt about it. You know, and it makes
That's another good one.
Frankie such an amazing character as well. I call for,
Other than the knife to the eye stuff.
aside from if
Aside
you didn't love him
from
for the
that.
knife to the eye stuff, you'll love him for how much he has the goons back during this graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Through this run, it just makes me want Frankie to have his own spin-off eventually.
Eventually.
It would just be great. But overall, I think Chinatown is the best Goon graphic novel out, without a doubt. What do you think?
That's amazing.
Okay, so Patrick Hickey Jr., Editor-in-Chief, ReviewFix.com, Robin Buckwalter, co-owner of Galaxy Comics and Collectibles 3.